Welcome to the News at 6. 5 days after the deadly July 4th flooding, we continue to get sobering numbers and hear heartbreaking stories from the Hill Country. Stories of heroism and of loss. That's where we find our Myra Arthur this evening in Kerrville. Myra, you've been speaking with people who have experienced both of those things.
Absolutely, Steve. I am standing not far from where a man who survived all of this was living right before this happened on the morning of July 4th. This foundation used to have a home on top of it. I talked with a young man who was in that home with his family when it was washed away. I spoke to him at a hospital earlier today. He ended up right where that bridge behind me is. That's where the house came crashing apart. That's where he eventually was found. We're going to hear his story coming up in just a moment. But first, let's get to the very latest about what we know here. As of this afternoon, the governor says that 110 people have been confirmed dead because of flooding across the state. 95 of those found in the Kerr and Kendall County areas. The governor also said that as many as 161 people in Kerr County are still missing tonight, with 12 others reported across the state. However, that's just the reported number. There could be many more who are still missing. Among those I know are a father, a mother, and a 2-year-old boy who lived in this home that was washed away. The young survivor that I spoke with, his name is Leo Romero Jr. He is in the hospital dealing with a lot of cuts and scrapes and recovering here in Kerrville. His mother was there with us too today. They are all still missing. His family tonight, those 3, father, mother, and stepmother, and toddler brother, I should say. Leo was home with them when the water started pouring into the air vents in their house just after 6 a.m. on July 4th. Here's part of our conversation.
I remember something hitting me on the head. How I recall it is the roof fell, but just next thing I know, house is gone, so I'm just in the water. Grab whatever. I wasn't really able to hold on to it. I just kept going. I think I just hit like a lot of rubble, just like parts of houses, trees.
You were just stuck in debris, things coming down the water. Yeah. How did you get out of the water?
The firefighters. Yeah, I was there for 4 hours.
You were there for 4 hours? You haven't seen your brother or your stepmom or your dad since Friday morning? But you told me that you're holding on to hope.
Yeah. We have basically the whole family, searching. Neighbors searching.
A lot of people in Leo's family holding on to that hope, and they're doing what they can on their own to get some answers. That's how we came into contact with Leo out here when I was here on Saturday. They were here, family members with their own heavy machinery, digging through piles of rubble of what was left for the house, looking for any signs of the people that they have lost. And you know that so many people are feeling that way tonight, missing their loved ones, wanting answers to questions. And a lot of questions have been focused in this tragedy on Camp Mystic, that all-girls summer camp that really, as far as camps go along the Guadalupe River, bore the brunt of this. And here's what we have found out in regard to Camp Mystic. Our KSAT Investigates team looked into this, and they verified that Camp Mystic had an emergency plan in place just 2 days before all of this heavy rain flooded the Hill Country that killed, again, more than 90 people here. Inspectors with the Department of State Health Services visited that camp along the river on July 2nd. Records show that there were 64 staff members and 386 campers at the Guadalupe portion of the campground during that inspection. Camp officials have confirmed yesterday that 27 campers and counselors died in what is now being described one of the worst flooding disasters in Texas history. A lot of questions have been circulating for local officials here as well. So we looked into what Kerr County has been talking about as far as flood mitigation concerns. And we found out that there are conversations about flood warning systems, upgrading those. Those are discussions that have been going on for at least a decade, if not longer. A proposal from the then Kerr County Sheriff back in 2016 was to spend $1 million on upgrades, including installing flood sirens that would be loud enough to alarm people within 3 miles of the flood gauge. The proposal didn't move forward, though, and Kerr County commissioners at the time decided to stick with a river calling system. They thought that would be better. So what is that system? That includes the summer campsites calling one another in a phone chain to warn of potential dangers along the river. The 2016 minutes from that commissioners' meeting specify that Kerr County commissioners did try to get funding for some improvements through a FEMA grant, but their application was not selected. Steve, one of the many details that we're continuing to learn, as there are so many questions about how was this so devastating, but so much of the focus today, right here tonight, is on those who have lost and those that remain missing. We're going to have more from the Hill Country. But for now, Steve, back to you in the studio.
All right. Thank you, Myra. And you know, Governor Abbott had a news conference this afternoon after he took an aerial tour of the Hill Country. He was speaking at the Hunt store in Kerr County when he talked. He talked a lot about that aerial tour and the damage that he described as widespread and catastrophic. He also talked about the fatalities and the number of missing, 161 known missing from the Kerr County area. He says that number likely could be rising. He also talked about blame and said not to point fingers, but find solutions. Here's a bit of what the governor had to say today.
They need to know Texas is in this with the people in the Hill Country right here. We are not leaving until this job is finished.
The governor and the Speaker of the House, who also went on that helicopter tour today, were clear in saying part of finishing the job is what they will do in Austin in about 10 days. A special session is about to begin. They will be talking about what happened in these communities in the Texas Hill Country from top to bottom, is what the governor said. And he wants to know if systems are needed to prevent this from happening in the future, prevent this loss of life. And there are so many ways that you can help this community who's been impacted by this terrible tragedy. It includes volunteering, donating money. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. We have a list of where you can donate and where to call if you just want to volunteer. Talk about the weather situation. It is certainly calmer in the Hill Country at this hour, but that doesn't mean we're not getting rain in our viewing area. As a matter of fact, we're getting some pretty good showers out there in parts, Adam.
Yeah, a few downpours we've had pop up, especially Wilson County and some locations just southeast of San Antonio. Not a whole lot of action out there at the moment. And you look into the Hill Country and that activity is really nothing right now, which is good. So the showers have crept their way into Medina County, and that's about it now. As we go forward, this activity that's left out there is all going to be ending by 9 o'clock, and then tomorrow just some isolated pop-up showers. A rundown of how much rain has fallen and where today. Most of it east of I-35 and I-37, as well as our next rain chances going forward in just a bit.
All right, thank you, Adam. Let's go to TransGuide right now. I want to take you to a traffic trouble spot we showed you at 5 o'clock. Not getting any better. This is 410 at Starcrest, and you can see, again, what looks like a garbage truck there. It looks like it's about to be towed away. That's at least one of the vehicles that's slowing things down out there. As you can see, traffic very slow at 410 and Starcrest. I also want to take a live look right now at the Kerrville City Council meeting where leaders are discussing flood response, what needs to happen now, and the state of city infrastructure. We are streaming this live on KSAT.com. Our Avery Everett is there. We'll have a full breakdown tonight on the night beat. And before we go away from this shot, I want to tell you about a number you can call. When we talked about the missing, 830-258-1111. If you have a missing loved one in the Kerr County area, that is the number to call. Again, 830-258-1111. There's also a website and much more information on KSAT.com. So many families still waiting for the call about their loved one who was swept away by floodwaters. Coming up, we're going to hear from a San Antonio woman and her brother who are searching for their mother and still holding on to hope. And a manager helps guests escape deadly flooding. Coming up, what he discovered when he went to check on a cabin as the water levels were rising. What he found inside.
Welcome back here to Kerrville, right along the banks of the Guadalupe River. You know, this tragedy here in the Hill Country is something that a lot of people across the state can't wrap their minds around. And people across the state have memories here in Kerrville. It is a tourist destination all year long. So many people bring their families here. It is tradition. This is a place, especially on the 4th of July weekend, that would be filled with people renting spots along the river, in RVs, in campgrounds. Our Courtney Friedman is in Ingram. And Courtney, you talked with someone who owns a lot of rental properties out there, some of which you're very familiar with. And this guy went from rental property owner to rescuer in all of this.
Yeah, Myra, he did. We're at the Casablanca rental property, which spans 11 acres in this area. The water from the Guadalupe behind me had never risen this far, and it was shocking for the people who were here, who were evacuated. And my family was here Wednesday and Thursday. We left Thursday afternoon, the day before these deadly floods. So that manager invited me back here to these grounds for me to see for myself. And you can see the damage just next to me here. There's a bunch down at the river, which we're about to show you. It looks a whole lot different just days later.
That dock was right there.
That's where we were fishing. That dock is gone.
Yep.
Whoa.
So this was a whole fishing dock, and our patios, chairs. This was the kayak station.
When floodwaters rose and raged, rental manager Eddie Matthews evacuated 75 renters on 2 separate properties on the river in Ingram and Hunt, River Oaks Lodge and Casablanca.
And that's when they called panicking, saying we need rescue, that their cars were already over water. We were able to get them out safely.
Later that night, he returned to the property and heard someone in this cabin, which had been knocked off its foundation.
At the time, it was it was already still underwater. So I was able, you can see where the water line is at the end. So we got him out and took him to safety. So he had no power, no water, and no food. And so he was pretty dehydrated. I had some gator egg in my truck.
In the light of day, the water levels still shocking.
Water was already up to here before it started receding. So you can see how hot the elevation is.
We're here right now in the basement that was loaded with the things they need for these rentals. Look how high the water went. You can see because of the debris all the way up to the pipes on the ceiling.
The guests' cars Eddie captured underwater on Friday, now totaled and covered in mud. But these replaceable things are not what haunt Eddie.
You do know a lot of people who didn't make it in this flood.
Yes, and I think that was a pretty big burden as we got a lot of these reports through the day.
As a former camp counselor and former Kerrville Tybee High School employee, he is extremely plugged into a community that is hurting right now. But like others we've talked to, this will not shake his faith or hope.
You're not giving up.
We're not giving up. It's very important for us to want to rebuild because we love this community. I want them to keep coming, and I've resolved to make it so.
Well, I can promise you that we will be back.
Thank you.
This is a very strong, resilient community that we can be sure of. And though there is damage pretty much as far as the eye can see in this area along the river, the rebuilding process is already happening. And we can see that. We've been here all day. They've been cleaning up. They have lots and lots of help. And they're hoping to do that quickly. What they want you, the community, to know is that once this area is back open, even if there are remnants of this flood, so many of these people are in the service industry. They rely on visitors, and they hope when that time comes, you will book your trips and you will continue your family traditions here in this beautiful and resilient community. For now, we're live in Ingram. Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News. Back to you, Steve and Myra.
Yeah, and that's the big message in all of this, Courtney. That helps with the recovery is once the debris is gone, once things are cleaned up, come back. Because Kerrville's going to come back, Ingram's going to come back, Hunt's going to come back. You just know they will with help.
Right.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Myra. Let's take a live look outside now with weather cam. And like I said, there are showers out there. Luckily, they are not in the Hill Country, or at least in the Kerr County part of the Hill Country.
Yeah, and really most of them are east of I-35. That's where most of them have been. And you look at the colors on the screen here indicate where we've had rainfall today. And notice that's generally east of I-35 and between I-10 and I-37. Now, brief showers and downpours, but enough to drop over 2 inches of rain in Wilson County. Let's go to Floresville, for example, here. And just north of Floresville, 2.6 inches. Just south of Floresville, 3.2 inches. These are Doppler radar estimates, but the NOAA National Weather Service Doppler radar's dual polarization implemented over the past few years does a very good job at estimating accurately this rainfall. And then a few crept into far west Bexar County and eastern Medina County, and that's about as close as they got to the hill country. And looking at the current situation with the radar, you go farther to the west in Uvalde County, one downpour that should not be problematic. And I want to go back over the past hour so you can get an idea of the evolution and flow of these showers. Still some closer to the Gulf coastline. Those are going to stay down there. They're not going to move our way. What we have left over is quickly coming to an end, and by 9 o'clock, it should all be over with a quiet night ahead of us. Now, you see this green line that is formed from Uvalde to Crystal City? That's an outflow boundary, basically an exhale from the storms that were off to the east. And this green line, that's going to head eastward and could trigger some more showers here west of San Antonio between I-35 and the Rio Grande, already kickstarting a few in that area. So again, a quiet night through 9 o'clock. We'll have some of these showers, a quiet night, and then tomorrow, a 30% chance. Thursday and Friday are going to be quiet, sunny, chance to dry out. Probably no rain developing or even rain-making clouds around. By this weekend, 20% chance of some isolated pop-up afternoon showers are possible, but nothing significant, and it really shouldn't be anything problematic. That's the way it looks right now. Here's our feature cast, and it's on board with that activity dying after sunset this evening and tonight. A quiet night, then we get into tomorrow. Some sunshine destabilizes our atmosphere, helps to generate some of these pop-up downpours, which tomorrow could really be anywhere across our area. Hill country, all the way down to the Gulf Coast, to the Rio Grande. We could see some of these isolated pop-up downpours. I want to talk about the overall setup here and what's going to help to kickstart the showers tomorrow. Now today, or I should say over the past few days, we've had this upper level low, that rain-making energy drifting over Texas. That's the original rain-making system. The next one is just off to the east, and this little curl in the upper level flow, that's drifting over Texas through tomorrow. So that keeps us at that 30% chance. And then the chances fall off for Thursday and Friday as those disturbances are out of here. Really quick look at stream flow along the Guadalupe. This just updated, and you see how that stream flow is way above average for this time of year until you get east of Canyon Lake, because Canyon Lake is the big catcher's mitt for the big ball of water that goes down the river. And so from Canyon Lake to New Braunfels, it's actually right near average for this time of year. Steve, temperatures going to be low to mid 90s the next several days. Nothing changes there.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Still ahead, many families still searching for loved ones swept away by those hill country floods. Daphne Gray introduces us to one family still holding out hope. Next.
Welcome back out here live to Kerrville, standing here along the Guadalupe with really the destruction that is still, all these days later, so unbelievable to see firsthand. And you know, so many people affected directly by this. For them, the 4th of July weekend will never be the same. There are more than 100 people who are still missing tonight. But one family we talked to who is facing that same reality says that they are still holding on to hope that they will find their mother 4 days after they last heard her voice. Our Daphne Gray has their call to action tonight.
How are you guys dealing with that right now?
No one's sleeping very well.
Retired Coast Guard Rachel Lynn, her brother, active first responder Ryan Schomber, and their family exhausted, hoping and praying their mother is still alive. 77-year-old Penny Ferguson and her husband, 83-year-old Bruce Ferguson, were swept away in the deadly Hill Country flood. Before the 4th of July, the two siblings visited their parents at the HTR Texas Hill Country RV Park and Campground.
Know that that was a place that they enjoyed being at?
They live there year round. Big campers, big fishermen, nature enthusiasts. They knew everybody, including the office people.
Chamber and his daughter were actually visiting from out of town, staying in one of the cabins just down the street from his parents' RV. He said he saw a lot of lightning overnight Thursday into early Friday morning.
5 o'clock we heard 2 honks. Phone did go off, something about an alert as far as flooding. By the time I came back to the front door to check, the water had already started to exceed the roadway. We put shoes on, I had her grab her backpack, I called my mom, told her we need to leave now.
Chamber says by that time, the water was over the steps at his cabin. He grabbed his daughter and they swam to higher ground at the next cabin over. But before they made it to safety, with the help of 3 good Samaritans.
When we look back, my mother's RV had toppled.
I still believe that they had air bubbles.
There was technically still a chance that they were alive.
Unfortunately, during our conversation, Chamber received a phone call.
At this point in time, Bruce Ferguson has been found deceased.
A heartbreaking reality the family is hoping is not the case for their mother or anyone else who is still missing today.
People can survive so much.
Daphne Gray, KSAT 12 News.
And to those good Samaritans who helped Ryan and his daughter, he just wanted us to pass on thank you from the absolute bottom of their hearts. They told us that without their help, they would not be here today. Again, they are asking anyone who may have seen their mother to call 830-258-1111. You know, we're standing here in Kerrville, but there are river towns dotted all along the Guadalupe, and from one to the next, it is not hard to find devastation, piles of debris, cars that have been shredded, houses that are just no more. But among all of that, there are signs of love. Gage Goulding joins us from Hunt tonight. And Gage, you met a cowboy with a can of paint and a very full heart.
Yeah, he goes by Cowboy Dave. This guy is remarkable because what he does is he can find the best silver lining in the worst of the situations, okay? His signs, some are big, some are small. This one here is Jesus wept. What I want you to take away from this is that the message is clear. The Texas Hill Country is not alone.
Well, professionally, I'm retired from insurance brokerage and military, etc. My life is, my family's life, my wife and I's life is disaster relief. Those are not good. We go into a community and instead of being first responders, we're first impactors.
Going down the road that connects these now devastated hill country towns, you'll spot little glimpses of hope nestled amongst the ruins of so many lives. Paintings of big red hearts and words like Jesus wept or hearts hurt.
What does heart hurt mean?
Everybody can relate to a hurting heart. It's okay for them for a window of time to weep, to mourn, to say, my heart is broken. It's broken. I don't need more barbecue. I don't need more hand sanitizer. I need my heart fixed.
Dave Graham goes by Cowboy Dave. He's the man behind these inspirational messages. Amidst the pure destruction, he drops signs of hope.
And they drive by their community and they see hell, and then they're like, that's nice. And I'm gone, so it's anonymous. Isn't that great?
He truly is a first impactor. Cowboy Dave has helped heal well over 40 communities around the country struck by natural disasters.
This is the worst thing I've ever seen. To me, is to be able to take something that's ugly and take that whole ugliness and just put one little simple piece of metal at the end of a cut-off stump or a refrigerator and just put on it a message that says, whatever town I'm in, Uvalde lives matter, Kerrville lives matter, River lives matter.
River lives matter. That's the message here. This is propped up right across the Guadalupe River from Camp Mystic. It's right over my shoulder here behind me. Cowboy Dave said this was a special piece for him to make. He wanted to create this for all of the girls that were swept away in this catastrophic flash flooding. He will be out here not only creating these signs, but to be a shoulder to lean on. And of course, if you need to chew somebody's ear off, he's your guy for that. We're live in Hunt, Texas. Gage Golding, KSAT 12 News.
Yeah, the guy with the Heart Hurts organization puts his heart into all of those signs. You can tell that for sure. Thank you, Gage. It's still ahead at 6:30 as families grieve over the many lives lost in the Hill Country floods. One man is making sure their names are never forgotten. Garrett Berger introduces us. And as charities flock to help those still in need in the Hill Country, one local credit union wants you to watch out for criminals trying to steal your donation.
Welcome back here. We're here right along the river, right next to a neighborhood street. You might hear some loud trucks, some helicopters overhead, neighbors just cleaning up. That's been the sound of this area for days and probably will be for weeks ahead. And you know, with so much devastation, with so much being destroyed across the Hill Country, one man is looking to build something, to do work of a different kind, to remember these victims. Our Garrett Berger joins us live also here in Kerrville. Garrett, you spoke with that artist who is using his talent to remember. Garrett.
Absolutely, Myra. So in any occasion like this, whether it's a mass shooting, a natural disaster like this flood, there almost seems to be an inherent need in people to create a memorial, to build a place where people can come together and remember the people that they've lost. Now, I spoke with one artist who's coming to town to try to use his artistic talents to do exactly that. As first responders scour the Guadalupe River for victims, Dallas artist Roberto Marquez is looking for something else, the best spot for a memorial.
We need to have these places because they will prove that that's where we unite, that's where we fight together.
He has plans to build crosses for as many victims as he can, using debris from the flood when possible.
That piece for me needs to be as connected as possible to the area. All of our brothers, that's the way.
He also has plans to paint a mural and some smaller pieces that could be sold to help support victims' families. And he and his wife are working on an artistic rendition of the Texas flag.
So instead of having one star, I will count all the kids when die, make a scar.
Marquez has lent his artistic abilities to other tragedies before, including the deaths of 53 migrants in a sweltering trailer on San Antonio's southwest side in 2022.
What compels you to do it? To drive across the country or across the state?
It feels good when you do something.
And Marquez says grieving communities need memorials to better get through the darkness.
I wish I never had to do it a day, no. Because it has to do with tragedies, but it's like nature. It's bring this, these surprises, and if you are, it can come together, and eventually people are strong enough to overcome those situations that if they alone would be more difficult.
Now, Marquez started his work here in a parking lot overlooking the river in downtown Kerrville. However, he's told that they don't want the installation here permanently, so all this stuff is going to move. We do not have an actual memorial site as of yet. However, he said that a collaborator he typically works with has a line on a possible location that they're going to go check out tomorrow. Once we have a spot where you can pay your respects, we will let you know. Live in Kerrville, I'm Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News. Myra, Steve.
Garrett, that certainly shows you that help comes in many different forms. Garrett, Myra, thank you. Still ahead, the last few days have taken a toll on all of us, especially the first responders working around the clock to rescue and recover victims of the floods. Patty Santos shows us their struggles next.
The devastation here across the Hill Country has taken such a mental and emotional toll on people across the state, especially those who have been directly impacted by this. Patty Santos was in Ingram today. She's been covering this flooding for us for days now, and she talked about that toll, especially on first responders.
Well, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done here, but let me give you a look here at where we are. This is right behind Howdy's Bar. When we were here on Friday, all of this was covered in water. We are now able to see what was underneath that water. You can see the roots of this tree, this massive tree, probably a few hundred years old, exposed, and then along it you could see the scars of where the debris that hit the tree, probably going up to 40 feet maybe, but these are the kind of trees that we're seeing one after the other, and the debris that was piled here. Now, we have been talking about mental health, and this morning we got a chance to see some of the tedious work that is being done here in this community. These first responders are going through piles and piles of debris that can sometimes be hazardous, but they have to go through it layer by layer, making sure that they do everything possible to bring families together. And crews this morning told us they estimate they have walked about 26 miles along the Guadalupe River. It is very treacherous and time-consuming work, but they say the hardest part for some of them has been when they find those bodies. They are asking for three things. First, for prayer for the families that are mourning. Also, for prayers for the families that are still waiting to be reunited with their loved one. And third, pray for the first responders that are having to go through all of this and that will probably take some of these horrible memories home with them. Reporting from Ingram, I'm Patty Santos.
Hearing the news of all of this, especially as those numbers have grown over the last few days, it has been hard for people all across Texas, especially the Hill Country, all across the country, to really understand. Steve, you and I talked about, we don't know if there's a way for us to understand what has happened here, but I do know that there are people helping people process this. There are resources available, many of which we have on our website right now. Steve, I want to send it back to you.
It's just such a juxtaposition of disaster and hope and horribleness and empathy and, just all in one community. Yeah, thank you, Myra. Let's turn to Adam Caskey right now, and we've been talking about the rain chances, talking about something he was following across the Gulf over the weekend. Is it still going to impact us?
A little bit. It's a weak upper disturbance that's going to be impacting us, so nothing significant. It's going to bring us even, I think, less rain coverage than we saw yesterday and today. Right now, at outflow boundary, this green basically exhale from thunderstorms farther east that have dissipated, kickstarting a few showers near the Frio River. This is not going to be problematic at all. Up into the Hill Country, no rain at the moment. A few rain chances going forward, then we dry out. We'll get into that. And an update on the Aquifer and an explanation in just a bit.
Welcome back here. Amid so much of the heartache over the last 5 days, there has been so much help. Texans stepping up to help other Texans all across the state. Our John Paul Barajas is in Bulverde right now. And JP, I understand that's where people are handing out water to folks that don't have any right now.
Myra, right now we're still waiting for this event to get kicked off, but we are at Academy in Bulverde off of 281 and 46, where they're going to be doing a bottled water giveaway, which once it does get started is going to help so many families out because of so many people in the Canaan area, communities area there under a boil water notice. That's due from a request from TCEQ because of just so much debris and sediment that's flowed into Canyon Lake from these devastating floods. Again, right now, not a lot of activity, so we're still waiting for those truckloads to show up with water, but I have spoke to one manager here about what this event is all about. Take a listen. When you're under a boil water notice, you're talking can't cook with water, can't drink water, can't brush your teeth or wash clothes, clean yourself with water. What a necessity is this to those in need?
Oh, this is huge. It's huge. I mean, you can't live without water. But again, we're always just remembering those folks who have lost everything or lost loved ones. And the least we can do as a company, as a society, is to at least offer those some water or something, basic needs that they would need.
I'm told they're hoping to start this event around 7:30. Once those trucks do get here, it is free to the public. If you're in need, you can come down here and get help. I want to take a full screen graphic right now of the two locations that this will be going on at right here in Bulverde. Okay, I'm told we don't have that graphic. There's a location here in There is a location here in Bulverde off of 281 and 46, the academy that I'm standing in front of. There's also another location in New Braunfels that is a soon-to-be academy. We'll have that address on KSAT.com. More than 3,000 bottled or cases of water will be handed out to individuals in need. Again, the event's going to start around 7:30 and run until supplies last. Again, for the addresses of both, you can go to KSAT.com. Myra?
All right, JP, help on the way in Bulverde for those who need it. Back here in Kerrville, Steve and Adam, I'm going to send things back to you, but I got to tell you, this is the first day, I think, since Saturday where it's really been full sun. And right now we can really tell the wind is starting to pick up here. Just some more of the elements that first responders out here are having to contend with.
Yeah, and that's actually probably good to dry out, get some of the debris out of the way and help with the search. And, we talked about Canyon Lake, and you showed that video from Sunday, I think it was, of all those logs on Canyon Lake. Yeah. Sediment, gas, grease, all that stuff that is just flowed in to Canyon Lake. And that's obviously the drinking source for people who live out there. The Edwards Aquifer, the drinking source for people who live in San Antonio. We're not seeing the jump in it that maybe a lot of people anticipated.
And that's because of the location of the heavy rainfall. It was generally, in the hill country, the really heavy rain. If you go to the map here, you'll see that's what we call kind of the slow zone. It's the contributing zone. What I'm going to call here, outlined in black, the partial zone, where the Edwards Aquifer, our aquifer here in San Antonio, only gets part of the rain that falls in the hill country and that black area. Whereas the recharge zone, which is what we often refer to as the sweet spot for our aquifer, is this narrow band right here outlined in this bright blue color. And in that area, we've had about 2 to 4 inches of rainfall since July 1st. Now, since July 2nd, the aquifer, our Edwards Aquifer, J17 well, is up only 3.8 feet. So despite all that rain in the hill country, it's not a significant rise in the aquifer around San Antonio, and that's why. And, the flooding is kind of another example to show you why, is that the rain in the hill country runs into the waterways and then rushes downstream. And in the case of the Guadalupe, rushes to Canyon Lake. In the case of the Medina River, rushes to Medina Lake Reservoir. So that's a little explanation on that. As for the rain right now, not a lot of activity. That outflow boundary, few pop-up brief downpours in Uvalde. That's all we have out there. Locally, nothing to talk about in San Antonio. Those downpours have come to an end, but I showed you earlier that parts of Wilson County around Floresville have seen over 2 inches of rain today just from some of those brief downpours. So still very efficient rainmakers. Luckily, they're not as long lasting and they're progressive. Now, we mentioned the lakes, the area reservoirs. Remember, Canyon is the big catcher's mitt for the Guadalupe River. It's there to catch these big flows and then control the water down to New Braunfels and then even into Seguin, and then it heads all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. So Canyon up 11.4 feet. It was at 46% full. Now it's at almost 63% full. Medina, not much of a change. Medina has a very small watershed. That Medina River, it's just in Bandera County. You need heavy rain in a very specific localized area. It's up to about 5%. It's a 9-foot improvement. Also, going to the north along the lower Colorado River, Buchanan, nearly 80%. That's up 9 feet. Travis, it was a good thing Lake Travis was just as empty as Canyon Lake because it was able to be the catcher's mitt for the Colorado River before it hits Austin and catch that surge of water that was going along the Colorado River. So that's what we have there. I'm going to leave you really quickly with the 7-day forecast. And just isolated pop-up showers tomorrow, brief in nature, 30% chance between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. Very quiet Thursday, Friday, stray, non-problematic showers this weekend.
We've got a scam alert we want to warn you about after the break.
You know, what's happened here in the Hill Country has spurred so many people to jump into action, wanting to know what they can do to help. And that outpouring of support has been tremendous. But so often, in the aftermath of a tragedy, there are people who want to take advantage of that generosity. Scammers come out to do just that. So Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union is sending out a warning about people who want to take advantage of the emotional state that we're all feeling right now, and of the people who want to help. A spokesperson with RBFCU says to be aware of scammers who are targeting people in need of assistance after these floods. There are specific things you can watch out for. We have all of those listed right now on our website on KSAT.com. I encourage you to check it out to make sure that your time and your treasure are going to something legitimate. We'll be right back.
For everybody out there watching us and taking part in helping in the Hill Country, thank you. We'll see you tonight on the Night Beat at 10.